Good morning. First, giving honor to God, who's the head of my life, Reverend Rice, officers, members, and friends, and those of you who are present today. When I think about the Youth Day 2020 theme, God's got the whole world in his hands, of course, I think about the pandemic and the racial injustice that has plagued and taken a toll of our world. Unfortunately, many have died, but thankfully, many have survived and recovered. But all of us have been affected by this pandemic and racism in some type of way. As I contemplated and debated about what I would say to those who are listening, I thought about how we have been and we still are hearing about COVID-19, racism, injustice, protests, and violence. And I chose not to elaborate on these things. However, our theme today is God's got the whole world in his hands. We are his children, and we must have Godfidence. What is Godfidence, you may ask? Well, Godfidence is having confidence in God and knowing that we can't, but he will. It is my prayer that he will continue to heal the sick, comfort those who have lost loved ones, keep his arms of protection around us all. It is also my prayer that he covers this world with peace and humility. When COVID-19 began to affect the United States, I don't know about you, but I was fearful. There were many days I worried and many nights I cried. Then along came these various incidents where our Black men were being targeted and murdered simply because of the color of their skin. I had to give myself several pep talks, and I had to remind myself of 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. What I noticed is my mindset during all of this that's taking place definitely had an effect on my children. So I had to check myself. I had to give myself a reality check and ask about my Godfidence. Being quarantined gave me an opportunity to get closer to God, spiritually and mentally. I was born and raised in the church, and I truly believe that if I didn't have the spiritual nourishment that was placed in my lunchbox, all of these things that are happening in this world today would have taken me over the edge, and I would have lost my mind. With that being said, I like to shift the theme just a little bit and speak to the parents and the youth. Parents, I would like to pose a question to you. What are you doing, or what have you done to prepare your child or children for the world that we are living in today? Once again, what are you doing, or what have you done to prepare your children or your child for the world that we are living in today? Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." As I said earlier, I was trained. I have several things in my lunchbox that has helped me cope mentally through all of this. This year, I completed my 14th year as an educator. And in those 14 years, I have seen and heard it all. I often joke with my teacher friends about how our world is in trouble. I've had to have several heart-to-heart conversations with parents about their children. And I always tell them, I have your child for 9 or 10 months. However, you have your child for a lifetime. Parents, we are our children's first teachers, and it is our job to prepare them for this ever-changing world that we're living in. It is our job to place the necessary items in their lunch boxes daily that will prepare them to be productive citizens. According to the Act for Youth Incorporation, close family relationships and open communication help young children stay healthy and avoid substance abuse and violent behavior. There is clear evidence that parents can and do influence their children. all of this hatred and racism that's going on in the world today that we're seeing, those behaviors are learned at home. Children in general do tend to grow up and be a lot like their parents. Social scientists and genetic researchers have identified that this is a cycle and it loops from one generation to the next. As I reflect on these statistics in my parenting, I realize that I've gotten a lot of my parenting skills from my mom. When I was younger, I've always wanted to be just like my mom. I admired her. She was a hard worker, loving, caring, generous. And not only did she provide for her own children, she provided for my cousins and what seems like the entire neighborhood. Wait, correction. We are all grown and she is still providing for us. Her house is the gathering place. It's a place where we go for a good meal, a good laugh, words of encouragement, shelter, and anything else that we need. As an educator, I have always been told to use real-world experiences to make connection with my students so they can relate to the content that I am teaching. And since it is Youth Day, one thing I remember growing up is my mom fixing me lunch. Actually, sometimes she still fixes me lunch. But parents, I want you to ask yourself this question. What am I, or if your children are adults, what have I put into my child's lunchbox to prepare them for this world that we're living in today? Yes, you can think of it in terms of physical items. For example, are you packing or have you packed items that will promote good health, nourishment, and healthy eating habits? Or have you packed junk foods that are filled with sugar, items that will cause weight gain, fatigue, and have your children bouncing all over the place? But today, I want you to think about this lunchbox as life, your child's future. What are you putting into your child's lunchbox? Physically, mentally, and spiritually. Healthy habits start at home. Are you putting faith or fear into your child's lunchbox? Are you putting love or hate into that lunchbox? Life or death? Confidence or low self-esteem? Are you filling that lunchbox with blessings or curses? Respect or carelessness? Are you putting positive vibes or negative vibes into that lunchbox? Success or failure? Victory or defeat? Are you putting a spirit of givingness or selfishness? A spirit of gratitude or entitlement? What are you putting into your child's lunchbox? We're living in a world where we must lead by example. We can't teach our children to do as we say and not as we do. We must put good things into those lunch boxes because there will be times when we won't be around. And guess what? Our children will have to rely on what's in their lunch boxes. In today's society, as you know, they will hear, see, and witness some unimaginable things. At that point, all that would matter is what you've put into that lunchbox. When you're not around, others will be able to see what you've put into your child's lunchbox. We see it on the news and social media every single day. How many times have we seen some things and we said, "Oh, my child would never do that," or "I wish my child would," or "Oh, if I was their mama"? We see it every single day. These days, parents support and defend their children even when they are wrong. And of course, you all know I have daughters that keep me running around, but oftentimes I'll be at an event and the children around me are just cursing and being disrespectful. First, I give them the mama look. Oftentimes at work, you'll have their friends that say, "Hey, chill out, show some respect." That lets me know what's been placed into that child's lunchbox. But then you have other times where I just have to straight up say, if your mom was sitting here, would you be talking like that? Parents, your child will unpack that lunchbox for the world to see. I remember when I was growing up, any adult had the authority to check me. And when I got home, I was checked again. But we're living in a time where parents don't want you to say anything to their children. They don't want you to address them in any shape, form, or fashion. What are you putting into your child's lunchbox? I am here to tell you, children will unpack the lunch boxes for you to see. And it is my prayer that there are some positive things that will be unpacked. When I was younger, my mom used to smoke cigarettes, and I absolutely hated it. Thank God she doesn't smoke anymore. But when I was in first grade, I remember writing an entire essay of phonetically spelled words about how much I hated my mom smoking. Well, my first grade teacher came to my high school graduation, and before she gave me my gift, she asked my mom, "Do you still smoke?" My mom replied, "No." She said, "Good, because Shannette used to write about you in school." It was funny and it was true, but I often wonder, and I asked her, "Why did you keep all of these writing pieces all of these years?" Her response to me was, "I saw something in you when you were in my class, and I knew that this would be a gift that you appreciated." It was definitely a gift that I appreciated, and it was very special to me. And for a long time, my family and I would read those writing pieces, and we got us a good laugh. But what are you putting into your child's lunchbox? One thing my mom put into my lunchbox was the fear for her, because even though I was a high school graduate, I often wondered, am I going to get in trouble for these writing pieces that I wrote 11 years prior? But today, I still hate cigarettes. Going back to the statistics that children in general do tend to grow up and be like their parents, there are some habits that I attained from my mom. I attained a love for Christ, children, coffee, and Coca-Cola. I love myself some coffee and Coca-Cola. Growing up, every Saturday morning, my mom and grandmother would sit on the porch, talk, and drink coffee. For the longest, I was denied an opportunity to have a cup of coffee. My mom slowly started giving me a little spoonful. And eventually the day came when I was able to get my own cup. Even though it wasn't a full cup, it felt like it was to me, but it made me feel special. It made me feel loved. It made me feel included. I was allowed the opportunity to sit with the grown folks and be all nosy and in their business with my own cup of coffee. And to this day, I absolutely love coffee. But I thank God that that smoking habit was not packed into my lunchbox. Our children are our future. And as you all can see, this world is rapidly changing. And it is my prayer that we as parents are placing things into our children's lunchbox that will cultivate them into successful, productive members of society. It is my prayer that we are packing things that will produce future doctors, lawyers, politicians, accountants, teachers, preachers, activists, entrepreneurs, and other successful careers. Jeremiah 29:11 reads, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." God's got the whole world in his hands, and he will keep his promises for those who love, trust, and submit to him. During this uncertain time, we must continue to have Godfidence. We must know that we can't, but he will. I would like to encourage you to remain prayerful, faithful, and trust in his promises. Be strong. Be courageous. In this present time of chaos, I pray for peace, I pray for understanding. I pray for your protection. I pray for God's grace and his mercy over your life. Just remember, God's got the whole world in his hands, and everything will be all right. In Jesus' name, amen.
Things are what